Everybody's talking about what happened at AEW Revolution, and we're going to talk about it next on the Squared Circle Psycho Babble. My name is Michael Valenti. Joining me is Ralph Valenti. Ralph, let's start with the opening match. Eddie Kingston wins the big one against Chris Jericho, and what I think a lot of people are saying was a pleasantly surprising good opening match between these two guys. Eddie Kingston comes right out of the gate, beats the crap out of Jericho, lands a couple suplexes on him, works the neck the entire match. Jericho eventually gets a code breaker on Kingston, works the eye there too. Kingston eventually gets the submission there. You think Jericho would give the respect to Kingston? Nope, walks away. I thought this was a fantastic opening match, and dare I say, set the bar pretty high for the rest of the card, and I think was hard to meet, honestly.
Yeah, I had a feeling this was going to be the first match of the main card, mostly because, obviously Eddie Kingston's been super over. Chris Jericho, he's been kind of on the line of like, is he a heel? Is he a face? Some people boo him, some people cheer him. But the one thing you can say pretty confidently is people are going to be super into his entrance. So, you had that dynamic right from the get-go with Jericho. Good back and forth action. I thought this was probably the best that we've seen Jericho look in a long time, both physically, because he's gotten himself into a lot better shape and in the ring. This is Eddie Kingston's now third or fourth really good match in terms of pay-per-view matches, going back to his initial debut, like with Cody Rhodes there. I mean, the guy just, when he needs to step up and deliver, it seems like he certainly does. And I don't know where they're going to go with this. I don't know where the ceiling for Eddie Kingston may be in terms of maybe a TNT title championship, or who knows if, he ever ends up challenging and winning the heavyweight championship. But at the very least, he's shown that he can go out there and hang with some of the top guys in AEW. So yeah. I thought this was a really good match.
It was a really good match. And as you pointed out, Kingston has had a streak of really good matches in singles competition on pay-per-views. You look at his match with Miro, and then he followed that up with, the match that he had at Full Gear with CM Punk, and then follows it up here with Jericho. And 3 matches you can make the argument was match of the night. Kingston has been on fire. I think I agree with you. Something in some kind of championship has to be in the future for Eddie Kingston for 2022. I lean more towards TNT championship right now, but who's to say he might go after that world championship. But speaking of championships, the next match was the first championship match of the night. It is the AEW Tag Team Championship. Jurassic Express holds off Redragon, and the Young Bucks to retain the AEW Tag Team titles. And one thing, and I tweeted this out, one thing that I noticed was this match exposed one thing that is stupid about triple threat tag team matches, and that is having one illegal team in the match. Why is it when a triple threat match with 3 singles wrestlers, all 3 are competing, but when it's a tag team match, only 2 have a legal man and the third team has to tag in? And that story was actually told very well with, you got Redragon and the Young Bucks kind of making it a 4-on-2 affair against the Jurassic Express. Eventually they come at odds. Luchasaurus comes out and has a hot tag sequence that the crowd popped for. A lot of good spots. And I think even though there was a lot of, things where people might say, oh, the refs weren't taking control of the match, I think in this case, it wasn't where guys were staying in the ring way too long or Rick Knox wasn't counting. I think actually they did a really good job in making sure that no one stayed in the ring too long and the spots didn't overstay their welcome. I thought this was a very good tag team match, and Jurassic Express winning I thought was the right move as well.
Yeah, that was definitely the right move, and that became more evident the further into the match you got, because even though Redragon's been presented as this team that is somewhat aligned with Adam Cole, and kind of going against the Young Bucks, which they kind of furthered that storyline a little bit with this match here.
Yep.
I don't think people bought them as a threat to winning that match. The Young Bucks, I think just the fact that they, not too long ago were already the champions there. I felt like the deeper into the match you went, you felt like Jurassic Express was going to win this match. That wasn't the feeling that I had going into the match, but last night, one thing I will certainly say, Jungle Boy, he's going to be a star. I think he is really good. He not only is he athletic, and I know he's not necessarily the strongest promo, but he's one of those guys where his in-ring work, much like Darby Allin, kind of makes up for anything he might lack on a charisma side. Not Darby might not be the best example, but just because they're smaller guys who can work really well in the ring, that's the comparison I'm trying to make. So, overall, are there spots in this match that I really liked and then other spots that I didn't necessarily like? Yes, of course. That's just the nature of like an AEW three-way tag match. That's what you're going to get. But overall, I thought it was a good match. I think the right team ended up going over too.
Right. And I think one thing that needs to be pointed out, I know a lot of people are not fans of the Young Bucks and their selling or storytelling in the ring, but I think they did a fantastic job in this match. And when they need to prove people wrong, they always find a way in these big matches to prove people wrong, how good they actually are at storytelling and selling when they need to be. And they did a fantastic job telling the story between them and Redragon and splitting that rift. And the tandem offense for everybody in this match was fantastic. Absolutely really good tag team match. And again, setting that bar pretty high for the rest of the night. I know a lot of people are saying, wow, after these two good matches, how the hell could the rest of the show follow up with that? But we go to the next match. You talk about high spots. It is the ladder match, the Face of the Revolution ladder match, won by Wardlow, which I'm pretty sure neither one of us picked. I went with Orange Cassidy. You went with Keith Lee. And this match, actually, I honestly felt like they were trying to focus this on let's showcase the big men, because a little bit of criticism goes AEW's way that they don't know how to book big men. They don't know how to showcase big men. Here we have a match where pretty much, I would say at least 2/3, if not more, of this match was given to the big guys, Wardlow, Keith Lee, and Powerhouse Hobbs. And by the way, Powerhouse Hobbs, he's definitely leaned out a little bit. And whatever weight he lost, Keith Lee fucking found.
Keith Lee did look very, very big last night. And not saying that he looked necessarily out of shape, but I told you that like on his debut, I felt like he looked a little bit bigger than he did in his WWE days. I don't know. I mean, in his debut, I think he had a tough time trying to do like a spot where he was trying to jump over the top rope. There's a certain point where, big and menacing like Andre the Giant, and depending on how you're going to work, there's a line there. I don't know. He's looking a little big.
Right. And I know he's not exactly the type that wants to be like Andre or, the Big Show, where those guys that were big and used their size as dominance. He wants to be like more of the Vader or the Bam Bam Bigelow type, where they were big, but they could still move in the ring. And speaking of Vader, congratulations on your induction to the Hall of Fame today, as it was announced. Going in, well-deserved. Frankie Stechino should be inducting him. But anyway, let's get back to the match itself. I think despite the showcase being those three, I think everybody did have a chance to really shine. Ricky Starks had some moments. Orange Cassidy had some moments where I actually thought they were going to have him win this match, and actually used some good psychology in this match. And if you had to pick anybody who had the best psychology in this match, it honestly was Orange Cassidy.
Christ.
I know you're not going to like it, but you have to admit the psychology in this match was a little off, but Orange Cassidy actually played to the gimmick of the match.
So yeah, I'll give you that, because that's one of the things I hated about this match was the psychology. And Jim Ross, I think he did his very best not to throw the guys under the bus, so to speak. But maybe when you say, Orange Cassidy had the best psychology, it's only because the bar was set so low by some of the bigger guys. I mean, towards the tail end of the match, you obviously had Wardlow, you had Powerhouse Hobbs, and you had Keith Lee making their way up the ramp for what you think would be that ladder, which I don't know why you'd need that ladder, because there was at least one perfectly working ladder that was still in the ring.
Right.
That ladder inevitably got ripped in half anyway. Then they were all the way up by where the commentary section was. They got tackled through the table and all this stuff. And it's like, all right, guys, the main point of this is to stay at least in the vicinity of the ring, set up the ladder, climb the ladder, and grab the Sonic coin or whatever you want to call it. So, I liked parts of the match. I was not overly impressed with a lot of it. I actually felt like, having that many big men in it was counterproductive. I felt like Wardlow winning was almost not counterproductive. I don't have a problem with him winning, but I just don't. What you're trying to do with Wardlow right now, and what they're going to do, I think, and I think it's inevitable and always has been, is they're going to build up Max and him, right? They're going to start to build that.
Yep.
They didn't, in order to accomplish that, what happened in the CM Punk match is exactly what we wanted to see happen. People have been waiting for this for a really long time. Did Wardlow need to win his match in order for that to happen? I don't think so. I don't really know what direction they're going to go with this. And I guess we can kind of play the wait and see game. But in spite of him winning, I go back to Keith Lee, despite what we wanted to say about Keith Lee and what type of shape he may or may not be in. You brought him in as this guy that was going to be, this big signing, and he had that great debut. He's been off TV for 3 or 4 weeks. I know he competed on Rampage.
Yep.
And he lost. And it's like, well, where are they going to go? Who is he going to feud with? If you're truly bringing him in and he's going to be this guy that's going to make this big of a difference, I felt like he should have been to win this match. I wouldn't have had a problem with him and Powerhouse Hobbs being the 2 big guys and then a bunch of other smaller guys. So that way you can highlight the strengths of these 2 guys, have them throw people around, a couple crazy spots here and there. Everybody goes home happy. You could still work the Wardlow thing. You could still work Keith Lee being this crazy over guy and this big signing. And I think that the fact that he lost kind of diminishes that a little bit. Not to say that they can't build him back up, but I don't know. I didn't see the need for Wardlow to win. I felt like Keith Lee should have been the guy to win this match. And overall, I thought the match was sloppy at times, illogical at times. And I don't know. I just couldn't get into it.
Right. Well, I do think there are plans for Wardlow and MJF that I'll talk about when we get to the dog collar match. But before we get to that dog collar match, we had the TBS Championship. Jade Cargill extends that winning streak to 29-0 as she retains that title against Ty Conti. It was not the 5-minute match that I said it should have been on the live prediction show that we did on Thursday night, but it was a match where Ty Conti, I felt like a lot of offense in, where it showed where Jade was finally going to have a threat to lose the title. And that was the story being told in the match, was that, hey, Ty Conti is the toughest opponent Jade has had. And was it the best match? No, I think there were some chemistry issues. I think when they finally clicked, there were some good moments in this match. But I think the only real thing coming out of this was Jade dressing up like Jade from Mortal Kombat and starting the match with the kiss of death. Other than that, there's really not much to really talk about and say, wow, that was really a good match. I mean, Jade still gets the win, but did that really help Ty Conti's stock? Did that really help Jade's stock? I think for a pay-per-view match, it was, this was one that probably could have been better served on Rampage or Dynamite.
Yeah, and it's almost like, I get it. People don't tune in to see Goldberg 2.0, but at the same time, I think that having these longer matches, you run the risk of kind of exposing Jade's limitations. From everything I've read, she's been training with Bryan Danielson. People have actually been commenting that she's been getting better, but the longer she's in there with, with whoever it may be, the greater the chances that she's going to mess up or look green or come across as being somebody that's not necessarily ready for the position or anything like that. So, it's almost like I want to see them do with her what they're doing with Serena Deeb with the whole 5-minute thing, because then, there's a limitation on the length of the match. You have Jade go out there, use all of her advantages, her size, her strength, look really good in a dominant fashion. It wasn't a great match. I agree with you on that. The one thing I will say about Jade is her smack talk ability, her ability to talk shit, and her ability to be funny in certain situations. She is good at that, because when she was mocking Ty Conti for her karate background, I thought that was funny. And then Smart Mark, when I think Ty Conti did like a moonsault or something on, she turned around, she's like, get your ass up, like just like chastising him for being on the ground.
Yep.
So she's good in that aspect. She certainly has charisma, but wasn't the best showing. Also wasn't the worst. So
no,
that's all right.
Right. No, I totally agree. But let's talk about this dog collar match, Ralph.
Yeah.
Wardlow turns on MJF, helps CM Punk win the dog collar match. You know, my thing about this match was I thought it was good. I thought there was some great storytelling. And, you know, you have the fake out with Cult of Personality. People thought Punk was coming out first, but it ends up being MJF. We've seen that fake out before with MJF before. Then CM Punk comes out and does throwbacks to his days at Ring of Honor. Now,
yes,
unless you know that for sure, you're not going to know that for sure. You kind of assume, but good call on Excalibur for actually pointing out that was his theme music when he was in Ring of Honor. Those were the type of shorts he wore when he was in Ring of Honor and had the same attire, stuff like that. So kudos to Excalibur for pointing that out, because I think there were a lot of people that looked at that and went, what music is this? Why is he dressed like this? But it played to the story of, you know, when CM Punk, you know, was an idol to MJF when he was in Ring of Honor. And then when he left the WWE, it all played to the story. And this match was all about the story, not so much the high spots. Yes, there was some violence, but nothing that I'm like, you know, I haven't seen before either. And I felt like at times the pace was a little too slow. I thought this was a really good match. For storytelling purposes, it's an A. For pacing, it's more like a B-, C+, because it could have been faster and a little sense of urgency at times. But the thing that needed to happen and get the biggest pop did, and that was when Wardlow came out, forgot where the ring was, then obviously the GTS onto the thumbtacks, and there's the ring. CM Punk hits MJF with it. 1, 2, 3. Punk wins, as I called it. Where do you think this goes now with Punk winning and MJF losing?
I think this is going to be the conclusion of their feud, at least from what I think we're going to get out of them, and that's mostly because we finally got what we think is a face turn from Wardlow.
Right.
You know, and one of the things that people always talk about is, what do people remember most? The end.
Right.
The end of the match with Wardlow coming out, costing MJF the match. I mean, I thought that was done perfectly. I thought just all the little things going into it. That was one of the moments throughout the night where the fans popped the loudest. I thought Wardlow played everything from his mannerisms, the faces he was making, the subtle little way he kind of stared at the ring, and him and CM Punk kind of looked at each other, and he just left it there right on the edge of the apron for Punk to just say, yep, go ahead, go do what you got to do. I'm not helping this guy anymore. So I thought all of that was really good. I think we're going to definitely see them transition into Wardlow and MJF, which I think is totally fine because there's been a story that they've been building there for a couple of years now. So I like all of that. I thought the match itself was actually, so this was the only match I ended up watching twice because initially I felt the same way as you. I felt like it was a little slow, a little proddy at times. But when you think about this, the importance of this match, or what they needed to portray, was the brutality of the match. This wasn't supposed to be a match that relied on high spots and flips and dives and all that type of crazy stuff. You needed this match to feel dirty, and you needed to feel gritty. You needed to feel like it was in your face, and you needed to feel like these two guys hated each other.
Right.
And after I watched it back, I definitely got the sense that this was exactly what I felt like it needed to be. The tone wasn't off. The physicality of the match wasn't off. I think the very first time CM Punk got whipped with the chain, he had bruising on his back. Like, you could legitimately see the marks. Going back to Punk's entrance, I thought that was a great little callback. And, you know, full disclosure here, look, because conversely, on the other side of things, you are getting a certain pocket of fans who are chastising the other people who didn't know that was his music from Ring of Honor. I mean, guys, let's be honest here. This isn't like we're talking about millions and millions of people that were watching either WWE or WCW back in the day. Ring of Honor had its following, and if you knew what that was, kudos to you. But I don't think people should be putting each other down because, oh, how could you not know that was his Ring of Honor entrance? I do think that was brilliant when you look back and consider the story that they were trying to tell. Punk coming out with his old gear, Punk coming out to his old music. And not only that, but what did Tony Khan just do? What was it, a week ago? What big announcement did they just say?
That they bought Ring of Honor.
So me as a fan who didn't necessarily know that that was his music, the first thing I did was I looked it up on YouTube and I downloaded it on iTunes and I have it on a playlist. The other thing now too is you've now told the people, hey, this was Punk's entrance music in Ring of Honor. So when they have that tape library or when they upload it to wherever they're going to upload it, I guarantee you people are going to be like, hey, you know what? I saw Punk do this entrance. Maybe I can go back and watch some of his old stuff. Yep. So there's some genius in that too. Bottom line, I thought this match was definitely better the second time I watched it back. Probably my second favorite match of the night. Not just because of the action, but because of the ending. So I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good match, but maybe I have to, follow your lead and watch it again to really get the pacing. Because to me, they definitely were selling the injuries, and I understand why the pace was slower. I just felt like it might have got a little too slow at times. But maybe if I watch it back, maybe it's not as slow as I thought. Also, it could have just been that it was close to 10 o'clock. I'm not used to staying awake at 10 o'clock. So that might have been part of it too. But anyway, the next match was Britt Baker retaining the AEW Women's Championship with the help of her friends Rebel and Jamie Hayter against Thunder Rosa. Good match, but again, just like Jade and Ty, what did this really do? At least with this one, you know there's at least some kind of story going afterwards where because of this, now Thunder Rosa and Layla Hirsch will have a match this coming Wednesday on Dynamite. The winner faces Britt Baker in San Antonio. I wonder who's winning that match.
Well, first of all, Layla Hirsch had a really good match, I felt like.
She did.
That was, she looked really good in her match in the buy-in. If you didn't take the time to go and watch it. It's probably like a good 10-minute match, but it was good. She looked good.
Yep.
So anyway, I felt like they were put in a really tough position here. I mean, we all know what happened their first or second, whatever number match that was when they had their no holds barred match. It was voted match of the year. Now you're put in a position where you're expected to top that. You want lightning to strike twice. And especially in wrestling, when you go from something that's viewed as maybe more severe, like going backwards to like a regular match, it's kind of like, all right, well, how are we going to top that?
Right.
It's going to be really difficult. So I don't know. I thought it was an okay match. They worked hard. They had certain moments and spots. There was obvious outside interference. Because I know they're capable of better because we've seen it.
Right.
I didn't come away from this like, wow, that was great. I was just like, that was okay.
Right. And of course, the excess amount of interference, which again kind of plays to the story. And I mean, some people are making the speculation that if Thunder Rosa wins on Wednesday, they're going to make it a steel cage match at the St. Patrick's Slam. That way, you can't get the outside interference, and Thunder Rosa will win the title in her hometown. So that could possibly happen. And, having it almost a year to the day of their match that happened, the lights out match. So it kind of goes full circle kind of thing. But I'm with you. I think they're put in a tough spot following the dog collar match, following their match of the year. And especially when it's a basic wrestling match, how do you top it?
Yeah.
You don't. You just basically do something to kind of spread the storyline further or do something where someone clearly wins. So they did the former, not the latter. But something big happened in the next match, Ralph. We had Jon Moxley, who snuck a win over Bryan Danielson. And I have to check the tape, but it looked like Danielson's shoulder was up. So it shouldn't even been a win for Moxley. But nonetheless, Moxley wins in a very physical match between the two. Yeah. Both of them are bloodied. After the match, Danielson gets pissed off, goes after Bryce Remsburg. They're, pushing back and forth. Moxley then attacks Danielson. They go back and forth. And then all of a sudden, the shocking debut of William Regal. He's in their face. He's slapping him like he's a head coach of a football team.
Loved it.
This was awesome. And if this is where these guys are going to team together and he's going to manage them, or they're going to take a stable and this is kind of building the Ring of Honor developmental roster, I am all for it. Moxley, Danielson, Regal, oh my, sign me up, damn it.
Yeah. And anybody who knows anything about William Regal's past knows that he is supposedly a legitimate badass, which is why I love the fact that he came out, even at his age, and
Yep.
confronted both these guys, got in their face, slapped them in their face, rubbed it, put his face literally in Moxley's face as Moxley's bleeding all over the place. So I thought it was perfect.
It was.
He got a great reaction, which is awesome to see. And the one thing that I will say about this match, which this was my favorite match of the night, hands down. A lot of times when I watch, wrestling today, I feel like, they're just kind of going from move to move or spot to spot, and they don't necessarily try to convince you that this is some type of competition between the two. Right out of the gate, whether it was a headlock, whether it was a wrist lock, whether it was Bryan Danielson kicking Moxley, or Moxley, like, it was 100 miles per hour.
Mm-hmm.
This was Walter Dragunov, maybe not to that extent, but they were not trying to lead anybody to believe that this was like a choreographed thing that, hey, we're out here to have a stage simulated fight. Like, we're going to make this seem as real as possible. And those are the matches that I love most, whether it's Bryan Danielson, who's maybe all of like 200 pounds in comparison to Moxley, who's probably like 230 or something.
I think so. Yeah.
It was as convincing as it could be. Bryan Danielson throws better body kicks are more convincing body kicks than almost anybody in wrestling that I've seen. I loved this match. I thought it was great. I thought it was exactly what it needed to be. And I'm just happy that they went out there and were able to deliver, because I think there was a high expectation set for this match. So I thought it was very good.
Yeah, there definitely was. And they delivered. They delivered on the blood. They delivered on the physicality, the violence. They did everything they needed to do within the rules of professional wrestling.
Right.
And that's basically what they were telling you throughout this whole story, that Bryan Danielson is here to change AEW because he's sick and tired of the dinosaur masks and the guys doing all these choreographed spots and guys that should be showcased more that are not because they're dealing with goofball tag teams, and Moxley has been nothing but unscripted violence since he came to AEW, and they showed you that in this match. Great match. Obviously, I mean, to me, hands down, match of the night. I mean, the only one that came anywhere close to me was Jericho and Kingston, but we did have some fun, entertaining spot festness in the next match. Darby Allin, Sting, and Sammy Guevara win the Demolition Derby 6-man tag against Andrade, Matt Hardy, and Isaiah Cassidy. You talk about, spot without letting, anything breathe or whatever. This match definitely did it. But knowing, you weren't going to get a 5-star classic, knowing that it was a tornado tag, you kind of have to just throw it on the wayside for this match and just go, let's see what the hell they're going to do. And you see Sammy Guevara doing the Spanish fly off the stage. You see Sting trying to jump off the rafters, basically, through 3 tables. And, Darby Allin doing a suicide dive to I think it was Matt Hardy in a trash can. Just at what level do they just say, all right, enough's enough. Like, let's end this match. And then of all things to have this kind of go, Darby Allin misses the coffin drop in the freaking finish. Yeah. But it was still a fun match to watch.
Yeah, that's exactly the word I would use to describe this match. Was it a classic? No. Did it have some cool moments? Absolutely. I mean, Sting being 60 years old or however old he is, jumping off a balcony.
Yep.
Never thought I'd see this in this match. The Spanish fly spot was pretty scary because it looked like they hit pretty hard. So as long as you didn't have your expectations set too high for this, I thought this was fine.
Right. Considering that you didn't even want to talk about it on our prediction show, I think it over delivered any expectation. So we do know, Sammy Guevara is the TNT champion, and we know that he'll be facing Scorpio Sky for the TNT championship, and then Wardlow will face the winner of that match. So I'll say MJF versus Wardlow at Double or Nothing for the TNT championship. That's what's going to happen. That's how I see it going. But main event time, AEW championship. Hangman Page wins the Battle of the Atoms and retains the AEW World Championship against Adam Cole. This was a good match. Obviously, them knowing each other for such a long time, You knew the story going in was they're going to know what each other's what each other is going to be doing in the ring. And they did it so well with the reversals and backing out of moves and, doing the super kicks and the perfect timing of stuff. Yes, Redragon got involved. Yes, the Dark Order got involved, but I don't think it took away from the match too much. And the one thing that I love about this match, I ended up winning $5 thanks to the DraftKings pool where you had to guess the different things that could happen in this match. I got 7 out of 8 right. The one thing I didn't get right was that there would be a table broken in this match, which there was, as Hangman Page did the Deadeye onto Adam Cole. But I thought they were very good. Very few botches in this match. And the right guy, I think, won.
Yeah, I thought it was a good match. Honestly, I was really into this match until the interference, and I was just kind of like taken out of it a little bit. I also felt like one of two things. One, I don't know if the crowd was burnt out. I also don't know if I'm the only one who noticed this, but it seemed like the crowd was just kind of like barely hanging on at the end there. Like it very hard to get them to react to much. Which to me, I think the crowd definitely is a big factor because, obviously with all the near falls, which there were a lot in this match, those are more effective when you have the fans that are going to react, like the 1-2, and then you're like on the edge of your seat. They're so upset or disgruntled that it wasn't a 3 count, and some of the best matches had that. So I don't know if it was a matter of them not miking the arena well, or if the fans truly were burnt out, which I don't blame them because there were a lot of good matches and it was a long night.
Yep.
The match itself, I thought was fine. I could have definitely done without the interference. But this was a good, solid match between the two.
Right. And I got to give, tip of the cap to Excalibur again. There was one spot in this match where you talk about all the kickouts. Adam Page, Hangman Page, kicks out of I guess they're calling it the boom in AEW, the last shot that it was in NXT. And he points out, usually Cole takes down the knee cover before he does that move, but because he had the sense of urgency and didn't want to lose momentum, he just went with it, and that's probably why Page kicked out. Stuff like that really helps. And I think commentators today don't do that enough, that it could just take a match from like a 3.5 or 4-star match to a 5-star match. It really can. Commentary is so important. And I got to say, I think for the most part, the commentary pointed out things that needed to be pointed out when it needed to be. And even though I'm not a fan of Excalibur's delivery, I think it still feels unnatural at times, he was spot on explaining certain things when they needed to be explained.
Yeah. And I mean, I thought first of all, I definitely know the exact part in the match with the knee pad that you're talking about. I felt like when I think of to me, Jim Ross is still the greatest to ever do it.
Yep.
Of the 3 that were on commentary last night, I still feel like he's the strongest when he's on. I felt like he's another one that was a little burnt out by the end of the night, because I distinctly remember, I think it was the spot with the Panama Sunrise when he did that on the outside of the ring, and he had hardly any reaction. It was kind of, I think he was literally said, so how do you top that? And it's like, if that's the JR of old, he's going nuts. He's leading you to believe like, that's it. There's no way he's kicking out. And it might not mean so much for the fans that are there because they can't hear it, but they're the ones that have to sell it to the people that are watching at home.
Yes.
It's a combination between what's going on in the ring, what's happening with the crowd, the way they're reacting to everything, and the commentary. So even if the crowd was truly dead at the end of the night, which they kind of seemed like they could have been.
Yep. If
Jim Ross was the Jim Ross of old, or like at his A game, at his peak, he's going nuts at that spot. Or he's going nuts. Anytime there's a near fall, he's going nuts. And it just seems like sometimes, especially with Tony Schiavone, like the tone is just off. Like they're trying to sell certain parts of that CM Punk match, and Tony Schiavone's talking about kicking MJF in the nuts. And it's like, dude, what's going on here? This is a grudge match. So I didn't think the commentary was bad, but I felt like there were certain spots that I could have done a little better.
Well, I mean, I thought for the sake of storytelling, I thought they were pretty good. I could see your point with Shivani, but I also think they played the part very well of pointing out how big of an asshole MJF is, and they just want his comeuppance to happen, which it eventually did. So I wasn't as critical on Shivani as I think you are in that regard. But I do want to point out, like, I see a lot of people talking about this. You got people across the pond that are watching this starting at midnight, and kudos to those people that are watching this on the overnight. I used to work overnights, and it sucks trying to stay up while trying to monitor networks or being on the radio on overnights. It's tough, you know, to watch a show for 4 hours, knowing you got to work the next day. Kudos to you guys. But even us in the East Coast, like, that show ends at midnight. And we complained when WWE had these massively long shows. And I understand AEW, their shows are, you know, not as long, or they're not as frequent, but still 4 hours seems a little long. You could have taken 2 or 3 matches out of this night, and I think still people would have gotten their money's worth, whether you bought a ticket or paid for the pay-per-view, and no one would complain that it's too long. Honestly, it makes every fan just want to move to the West Coast, where the latest a show ends is 9 p.m.
Yeah. No, it was tough. And it was even for myself, it was, this is why I like the shows being on a Saturday and not a Sunday.
Yeah, I agree. But, you know, at least you got Double or Nothing that's happening Memorial Day weekend. So even if it's on a Sunday, the next day it's Memorial Day, you're off from work. At least for most people you are. So I think we're going to have a fun show for Double or Nothing. And I think, honestly, Hangman Page versus CM Punk, MJF versus Wardlow, those are the 2 big matches that you're going to have at the T-Mobile Arena that night. And I'd be interested to see what people think in the comments, what matches you want to see at Double or Nothing, or what matches you think are going to happen at Double or Nothing. And don't forget to share us all over social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at SCPB Podcast. Subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Squared Circle Cycle Babble.